The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
This story is not about the Chiddushei Harim, the former Ger Rebbe, but it's about the Pnei Menachem, one of the more recent Ger Rebbes. Pnei Menachem was approached by a fellow who came to the Rebbe and asked him for a bracha. His name was Dr. Zellerfreund. Dr. Zellerfreund is one of Israel's most profound and proclaimed eye specialists. And before Dr. Zellerfreund went to an international conference that literally invited the best eye specialists from every country to get together, he went to the Rebbe to ask the Rebbe for a bracha. And I just want to say something about the Pnei Menachem. He was very into having an ayin toiv. As a matter of fact, he would tell his Hasidim before, the Yom Tovim, the times of very high volume, Ger is a very large Hasidus, they have the largest base medrash in the world. And when people are together and everyone wants a good seat, that sometimes people elbow other people and they push and they shtup and this and that. And the Rebbe used to say, we need to work on ayin toiva. Look at the person next to you in a positive light. You won't push him. Because you see, why would you push positivity away from you? So anyways, getting back to the story. So the Rebbe said to him, really? Tell me a little bit more. And he said, there's this conference with specialists literally from the four corners of the world. The Rebbe said, are you presenting? He says, I am. He says, Rebbe, can you do me a favor? He says, sure. He says, when you go to the conference, can you share with everybody that an old rabbi in Jerusalem asked you to share something with them? And Dr. Zellerfreund was a little taken aback. He said, Rebbe, let me hear what it is. The Rebbe said to them, he says, listen, it's the tendency sometimes in the medical profession, the Gemara actually highlights this, that if a medical professional discovers something remarkable, a cutting-edge treatment that could bring tremendous relief to people suffering, they don't share it right away. What do? They find a pharma company, they find somebody who can market it and copyright it and trademark it so they can monetize it and make a lot of money. Now sometimes that copywriting process, that trademarking process can take an extended period of time. And in that period of time, that year or two until it gets approvals and everything, many, many people could have been helped. But the problem is that the person that discovered it was a tsar ayin. Tsar ayin means somebody who only saw himself. He didn't see the world around him. He didn't see the potential suffering to lead it. So they don't share the information until they own that information. Says the Rebbe to Dr. Zellerfreund, you're going to a conference of eye specialists. Eye specialists should be specialists in ayin toiva, in having a good eye, in seeing the benefit and the upside of sharing what they have, not being a tsar ayin, someone that only sees their personal benefit and gratification from it. Tell this to the doctors. Will you do that, Dr. Zellerfreund? Rabbi, I will. Great, the Rebbe said, then you should have a lot of hatzlacha and bracha, you should go in peace and you should come back in peace. And sure enough, it was Dr. Zellerfreund's turn to speak to this international conglomerate of eye specialists. And he gets up there and he pulls out his notes and he says, I was planning on talking about X, Y, or Z. Something about the cornea, I don't even know. But instead, I'd like to share the message that an old rabbi in Jerusalem shared, and he shared exactly what the Rebbe said about not withholding, about turning the ayin ra into an ayin toiv, etc. And there was a tremendous stillness in the room. It really hit home. And he sat down. The next fellow on the schedule was a Yugoslavian doctor. And he got up there. And he too pulled out his notes and he says, I was planning on presenting on this topic. But I was so inspired what Dr. Zellerfreund said from that old rabbi in Jerusalem. I want everyone to know that I had an amazing discovery this past year that was a tremendous game changer to many people that were suffering. And I was going to hold it to myself and monetize it. And it would probably take months and maybe years. But instead, I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes or half hour sharing my discovery, sharing my approach, and sharing how we can alleviate the pain and suffering of the people and the patients that we interact with. That's taking tsaros ayin, nega, and turning it into ayin toiv, oineg. And as we come to the Chag HaGeula, we're just a few weeks away from Pesach, and when Klal Yisrael was in Avdus, the world around them was dark. And then Geula came, and the world became light. Their eyes were opened. It's an opportunity for us to relive this experience and take the darkness that we see in others, the negativity that we focus on in the world around us, and to turn it into taiv, into positivity, to take away the negaim from our life, and to turn them into einig. And be'ezer Hashem, we can go mishibud legeula, from enslavement to redemption, me'afela la'argadol, from darkness into great light. Wishing you a lechtige Shabbos and a mitzvah Hashem, a wonderful season of geula.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org